Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're tackling something that I'm sure we've all experienced, that feeling, that pressure to put on a happy face at work, even when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed or anxious.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about what's being called pleasanteeism,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically pretending everything is fantastic,
Right.
when really it's not.
Yeah, it really is more than just putting on a brave face for that tough meeting or that presentation. It's the sustained pressure to hide your true feelings, whether it's anxiety, frustration, exhaustion.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is this this masquerade that we put on,
Right.
it can really impact our well-being both mentally and physically.
It makes me think about something I read about a woman in Mumbai who was dealing with this really painful health condition, but she was too scared to take sick leave
Wow.
because she was afraid of losing her job. And it really just sort of like hit me hard in terms of like job insecurity being a huge factor in this whole pleasanteeism phenomenon.
Oh, absolutely. And especially in these uncertain economic times, people are clinging to their jobs, even if it means sacrificing their health and well-being.
Yeah.
But it's not just job security. I mean, think about your own workplace. Have you ever felt like you couldn't be honest about how you were feeling?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Maybe you were worried about being judged or seen as not being a team player?
Totally.
Yeah.
I think there is this unspoken expectation in a lot of workplaces to always be on, to
Yeah.
always be positive, even when you're struggling.
Exactly. And sometimes it starts with these good intentions, like wanting to impress your boss or being seen as a hard worker.
Right.
And I actually was reading about this guy who worked at a startup in Chennai who got caught in the cycle of overwork. And initially, he wanted to prove himself,
Uh-huh.
but it kind of spiraled into this unsustainable pattern that was really detrimental to his health.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope for sure.
That's so insightful. I'm really curious what happens psychologically when we bottle up our true feelings day after day.
Yeah.
What is the impact of this kind of emotional suppression?
Well, when you're chronically suppressing your emotions, it leads to this buildup of stress and anxiety.
Okay.
And then that, in turn, affects everything from your decision-making to your cognitive function, your job performance.
It's like a domino effect.
It really is. It becomes this vicious cycle.
Right.
You feel stressed, so you suppress your emotions, which leads to more stress, and on and on.
So it's not just about feeling unhappy. It actually impacts how we work and how we function on like a basic level.
Precisely. And there are so many reasons why people fall into this trap.
Yeah.
Job insecurity we talked about, but performance anxiety,
Right.
fear of judgment.
Right.
And even, some company cultures prioritize the grind above all else.
It's like we're living in this always-on culture where vulnerability is seen as a weakness.
Yeah. And if you think about the impact of the pandemic, I
Yeah.
mean, it's really magnified these pressures.
Oh, for sure.
People were dealing with unprecedented levels of uncertainty and anxiety, both about their health and their livelihoods.
Right.
And then, returning to the office after, these extended periods of remote work often meant navigating all these new anxieties and expectations,
Yeah.
which further fueled this need to appear okay,
Right.
even when things were far from it.
Yeah, like a perfect storm.
It really was.
Got pressure and anxiety.
Yeah.
So what are the real-world consequences of all of this?
Well, we're talking about increased rates of anxiety burnout and
yeah.
even physical health problems that stem from chronic stress.
So it's not just in your head.
No.
It actually like manifests
It does. It manifests physically.
in your body.
Yes.
What are some specific ways that this stress might show up?
Well, you might experience insomnia difficulty, concentrating digestive problems, a weakened immune system.
Wow.
I mean, the list goes on.
Okay.
And it's important to remember that, stress, it's not just mental.
Yeah.
It has very real physical consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're ignoring our own like internal alarm system.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it? I mean, we've painted a pretty bleak picture here,
Right.
and I'm hoping there's a way to break free
There is.
from this workplace masquerade.
There absolutely is. And, both employees and employers can take steps
Okay.
to create a more authentic and supportive work environment.
So let's start with employees.
Okay.
What can we do to protect ourselves from, the negative impacts of this pleasanteeism?
Yeah, I think, learning to set boundaries and saying no constructively is crucial. You need to advocate for your own well-being.
I mean, that's definitely easier said than done.
Yeah.
Especially when you're worried about, your job security or being seen as difficult.
Right. That's where clear communication comes in. It's not about complaining or
Right.
refusing to do your job. It's about managing expectations and your workload effectively. Like saying, hey, if you want me to prioritize this new task, which of my current responsibilities should I deprioritize?
I love that. It's a way of acknowledging the request, but also setting a realistic boundary.
Exactly. It opens up a conversation
Yeah.
about priorities and workload capacity.
Okay.
And finding allies at work
Oh, yeah.
can make a huge difference, too.
For sure.
Having a trusted colleague you can confide in, someone who understands what you're going through
Right.
can really make you feel less alone.
Like a support system within the workplace.
Absolutely.
What about the role of HR? Could they be helpful
Yeah.
in addressing pleasanteeism?
They definitely can play a role, but their effectiveness really depends on the company culture.
Right.
In some organizations, HR is genuinely invested in employee well-being, but in others, they might be more focused on protecting the company's interests.
Right.
So it's important to approach HR, I think, with a healthy dose of caution,
Yeah.
but don't rule them out entirely.
So we've talked about what individuals can do, but let's be honest, this isn't just like a personal responsibility issue.
Right.
I mean, what role do workplaces play in kind of perpetuating this culture of pleasanteeism?
Yeah.
What can employers do to address this on a systemic level?
I think it really comes down to creating a workplace culture where people feel safe and supported to be their authentic selves.
Right.
And that takes more than just empty slogans and posters about well-being.
It sounds like we're talking about a pretty fundamental shift in how we view
Yes.
work and workplace culture, moving away from this grin and bear it mentality
Absolutely.
towards something more, authentic and human-centered.
You got it. And it starts with leadership.
Okay.
Leaders need to model that vulnerability and authenticity. They need to create a space where employees feel comfortable expressing their concerns and challenges without fear of retribution.
So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And this brings us to the critical role of managers. They're on the front lines interacting with employees every day.
True.
Manager training, I think, is so important. Managers need to be equipped to recognize the signs of burnout and stress, and they need to be empowered to address these issues proactively.
So it's about creating a culture where it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
And where asking for help is seen as a strength and not a weakness.
Absolutely. And part of that is being transparent about workloads and expectations.
Right.
When people are constantly asked to do more with less,
Yeah.
it's only natural to feel pressured to hide any struggles they might be facing.
So transparency and open communication seem to be really key themes here.
They are clear communication, realistic expectations, and a genuine commitment to employee well-being.
Yeah.
Those are the foundations for building a workplace where pleasanteeism isn't the norm.
Yeah, it's really about, recognizing that we're not robots.
Right.
We have emotions, we have lives outside of work, and we need to feel safe and supported to bring our whole selves to the table.
I couldn't agree more. We can't just compartmentalize and pretend everything's fine when it's not.
So to recap, it's okay to, put on a brave face every now and then.
Right.
I think we all do it.
Yeah.
But if that's your constant state at work,
Right.
if you're constantly suppressing your true feelings,
Right.
that's a sign that something needs to change.
Absolutely. It's like a warning sign that you might be sacrificing your well-being
Yeah.
just to keep up appearances.
Right.
And in the long run, that's not sustainable
For sure.
for you or your employer.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, and I'm curious from your perspective, what's the one thing you wish more people understood about this whole pleasanteeism issue?
I think it's this. People often view vulnerability as a weakness, especially in a professional setting.
Yeah.
But the truth is, vulnerability is a strength.
Yeah.
It takes courage to be authentic.
Right.
To admit when you're struggling to ask for help.
And I think when we create a culture where that vulnerability is embraced, everyone benefits.
Absolutely.
It's such a powerful message.
Yeah.
It's about shifting our perspective
Yeah.
and recognizing that we're all human.
Yes.
With all of our, complexities and imperfections.
Exactly. So what small step can you take today
Right.
to move towards more authenticity at work?
Yeah.
Maybe it's setting a small boundary, having an honest conversation with a colleague,
Right.
or simply acknowledging your own feelings of stress instead of pushing them down.
Yeah.
It's about taking small steps, those little acts of courage that can lead to a more genuine and fulfilling work experience.
Such good advice.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that, genuine well-being, not forced. Cheerfulness is the foundation
Yes.
for true productivity and success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we feel safe and supported to be ourselves, we can really tap into our full potential. and
Yeah,
create a more positive and productive work environment for everyone.
that's what we like to hear. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. We hope this conversation has given you some things to think about and some practical strategies for navigating the complexities of the modern workplace. Until next time, take care.